Do you think the expectation will be towards like having it even faster, or like there will be a sweet spot that we find where we say that's just enough?
What we believe is that providing all the options to the customers is the most important thing. To have the customer decide, if I need it fast, I can get it fast. If I need it in a specific time window, I can get it in a time window. And also if I need it in 2 to 3 days and I don't care about it, then I might choose a cheaper option, and that's perfectly fine.
Where you see Uber Direct in the next 5 years?
We want to be the fastest, the most efficient, the greenest, the cheapest way to move things from A to B.
Hello and welcome to the EGN Podcast powered by the E-commerce Berlin Expo. I'm your host, Efe von Thenen, and today I'm joined by Moritz Bernhard, head of Uber Direct in Germany. Uber isn't just about ride-hailing anymore. It's quietly becoming one of the most important players in last-mile delivery. We unpack how Uber Direct is powering services like 90-minute delivery for MediaMarkt Saturn, what it means for customer expectations, and how retailers can stay competitive in the age of instant everything. We also explore how fast logistics is reshaping the way people shop, and why the next big retail battleground might not be your website, but your delivery window. If you're curious about how delivery is changing the rules of retail, you're going to want to hear this episode. Moritz, welcome to our studio. Welcome to northern part of Berlin. I guess I don't need to ask you which transportation you used. I'm assuming it's Uber. So we're going to be talking a lot about Uber. You are head of Uber Direct in Germany.
Yes.
And I've been really looking forward to this talk because I have a lot of questions and curious about the service. I have used some of the services that you provide with MediaMarkt. We're going to probably be talking about this. And without further ado, I'll give you the floor to introduce yourself.
Pleasure to be here, Efe. I'm Moritz. I lead our Uber for retail and Uber Direct businesses in Germany. Have had a lot of touch points with you, with the e-commerce world, e-commerce expo in the past. Was great speaking at e-commerce expo last year. Yeah. And this year, as you mentioned, we had a presentation by our customer, MediaMarkt. Yeah. We're excited to talk about this today.
You actually attended the presentation from Michael?
I was at the presentation. Yeah. I saw the smartphone getting smashed and delivered within a half an hour later back on stage. Yeah.
That was legendary. And I was actually, at that point, I hadn't used the service. And I was actually thinking, okay, that lights... Not that I wanted to destroy a cell phone, because Michael from MediaMarkt... he actually took a cell phone from one of the persons in the visitors public, but it was a colleague of his, right? So he asked people, "Hey, I need a cell phone," and I just smashed it to the ground. And chances are, like, he just ordered another one from MediaMarkt, thanks to your integration. I mean, at least on in theory, and then it came right away, and it made a very good impression. And I was happy to have this kind of interesting, a little bit extraordinary show. Thanks for providing that technology and making our event even more exciting. So tell us a little bit about what you do at Uber Direct. I mean, many of us have had a touch point with Uber, be it Uber Eats, Uber Marketplace, whatever, like Uber taxis, you know. But
for sure.
It's quite exciting what you guys put together in the last years, and I'm curious to find out more.
Yeah, for sure. I think probably Uber as a brand is most well known for getting you from A to B, right? Yeah. Here in Berlin, I think our most frequent pickup spot is Berghain, so it would be getting you home after a night of partying. And Uber has, of course, been founded on that story, getting you from A to B, making that a lot more convenient, a lot more accessible. Has become very good at moving people from A to B, and thus expanded that tech and that knowledge into also moving things from A to B. The first very well-known brand and product being our Uber Eats marketplace, which here in Germany launched about 4.5 years ago. It's a delivery marketplace like you would know from here in Germany, also Lieferando, for example, who has been in the market for a lot longer. With, I think...
We also had Lieferando in the podcast, by the way.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. With, I think, Uber Eats having a very strong focus on operational quality, delivery speed, leveraging all that knowledge we have from years of experience, I think, moving people from A to B as well.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, I think that tech over the past decade has evolved so well. We don't just want to keep that for ourselves. Yeah. So with Uber Direct, which is the product that we presented at E-commerce Expo and that MediaMarkt is also using, we're providing access to the infrastructure, to the tech, to the logistics that we today use for our Uber Eats marketplace, also for third parties. That product is available to anyone who wants to move goods from A to B in a very fast and efficient way. And the, I think, good example with MediaMarkt is they're making a completely new value proposition in the e-commerce world with this, by being able to click on the product you want and then not getting it delivered as you would usually expect in 2 to 3 days, or as you might know from Amazon next day, but actually on average in 51 minutes. So it's
the
really
official marketing
game-changing.
promise is 90, but on average it takes 51 minutes.
On average we're even faster,
Yeah.
So it's really a game-changing value proposition for e-commerce in that sense.
It really is, because offline retailers, omnichannel retailers, they have the advantage that they're really close to the customers in the first place. Not like some outside some warehouse outside of the city. So utilizing and leveraging that with the cutting-edge technologies and the data you guys have and the knowledge from all these other instances, it actually 4.5 years for Uber Eats, even, like it's incredible because it's everywhere, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think we've had a very, very fast roadmap to expand since launch, from starting in Berlin about 4 years ago to now being in more than 130 cities. Is very, very fast growth. We're proud of that. And I think in this model, what we just discussed, of course, it's a huge benefit for anyone that wants to come on our platform, be it on Marketplace or using Uber Direct as a logistics service. This is not something you can just do in Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, Frankfurt, in the big cities, but you can immediately do this at scale. So it's something that is one project you do, one integration you build, one provider you have, and then you can launch this not just nationwide in Germany, actually, but also in more than 20 markets globally. Here in Europe, France, Spain, the UK, Poland are great examples. So it's something that, yes, in Germany, we've grown a lot and we're proud of our scale right now. But I think from a merchant perspective, using one partner for growing your e-commerce business on Marketplace, helping you deliver faster in your own channel at scale is a huge, huge benefit, and something that is also, I think, has changed in the past years. I think if you wanted to do something like MediaMarkt does right now 5 years ago, you'd have probably needed 3, 4, 5 different providers. It would still not have been at the same scale as it is today. And it would likely have been more costly and more operationally complex.
I find it fascinating also, like what we've seen in the last 5-10 years also, like a lot of innovations also came too early, and the market was not ready, or the consumer was, they were not ready to adopt it. But these days, it's obviously working. I mean, like just before you were sitting with our colleagues, and like all of us tested this with MediaMarkt, even like it
very happy
tells the story. But then again, like how do you see what brought us here in terms of the market readiness? Can you tell us a little bit about the evolution of last mile delivery?
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe with a lens specifically on Germany, we've had quite a, I would say, moved past 3, 4, 5 years with a big wave of quick commerce that happened during the pandemic, which, rose very high, and then some of it crashed and burned afterwards.
Gorillas and
exactly. I think that there was a lot of platforms that during the pandemic, getting things in 10 minutes is something that was a great marketing claim, but operationally unit economics were very difficult to actually scale this in a profitable way. Now I think we're at a point where it's sort of a second wave, which is a lot more reasonable in its approach. We're saying speed is super important, but it doesn't need to be 10 minutes. Maybe 30, 45 minutes is perfectly fine. And actually also, when you don't talk about food, when you don't talk about things that pairs that get bad, maybe a same day delivery is also something where you have a good balance between a cost that a consumer is willing to pay, and you're still very, very fast compared to all the other options out there.
Yeah.
So I think we had of course, everyone tried it out, so to say, at all costs during the pandemic. Being the fastest was the marketing claim that really had a pull there. And then now I think in the past years, we are at a point where after I think everything wound down, there is some new approaches being tested, all with a more reasonable approach on doesn't need to be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
An hour is also perfectly fine. And we're seeing this expand not just anymore on food and groceries, but on all categories that, are within your city.
Moritz, I personally even found it crazy because like I have 2 little kids. Most of the time, if you have them alone, dressing them up, packing them to your bike, or like going shopping with them is a hassle, right?
Yeah.
As a parent, as these services during Corona especially, like during Corona on top, you had the risk you could get a disease, like that could threaten your life. So all these things, it was crazy. I mean, it's too fast to be even true. It actually, like living in a central location in Hamburg, for us, it was even like 7 minutes. It was like ridiculously fast. But going like towards and then you have companies like Flash and Post that promise 120 minutes, and they even like offer you options if like they have sustainable options. You don't pay extra or less. If you want to act sustainably, you can just wait 2 more hours. We have another like full truck, so to speak. And then you have so much has happened in this space, which I think is quite interesting. You also mentioned the benefit of like scalability for probably like the bigger players in e-commerce, like Omnichannel, that could use your platform to like have their internationalization strategy, right? So we have a lot of guests here talking about, especially when we noticed the slowdown of the German market around 2022, inflation and Ukraine crisis. Many people started to look at other markets, right? So like, how can we just like there's slowdown in Germany? Where else is the beef, right? So, I think that's super interesting. Which markets do you actually cover in Europe?
So, Uber is a global company. I think that's what I mentioned at the beginning, right? It's usually from a merchant perspective, if you work with Uber in one market, it's quite easy to expand to other markets. So that's a huge benefit. Here in Europe, we are in UK and Ireland, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, France, Luxembourg, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, Poland. I hope I'm not forgetting any market, but in most of the major Northern Western European markets.
Sounds cool.
And I think the example we had before of expanding from one to the other market, MediaMarkt launched the partnership with Uber in Germany, also Germany being the biggest market for MediaMarkt. And then shortly after expanded with us to Poland, which was from a tech and operational side, not a huge extra incremental lift. So it works on the same tech connection. It works with very similar operational processes. It is, of course, different country. You need to onboard the stores that are on the ground there. But it's not like a completely new setup. You don't need to invest exactly again the same amount you had to launch for the first market.
We had this in one of the recent podcast episodes. Also having this notion of scalability in the design of the product from the beginning is, I think, super important, because inevitably this is in the best interest of all the partners. And as far as I understand, you guys also provide last minute solutions for omnichannel retailers, as well as like groceries. You have like pharmacies, restaurants, like you cover a broad base. And that's very interesting. Like let's talk about speed, right? So you said like we had the very fast deliveries. And these days, like your 51 minutes seems to be a sweet spot. And So how do you see this going forward?
Yeah.
Do you think the expectation will be towards like having it even faster, or like there will be a sweet spot that we find where we say that's just enough?
I think it is all about giving the customer options.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned, right, that you have 2 little kids at home, and there might be a case when you run out of, I don't know, food, for example, and you really need it at that moment fast, and you can't drive to the store. You have the 2 kids. You're tied up at home.
Yeah.
Then speed is very important, and you might be willing to pay 6, 7, 8 euros delivery fee to get it really fast.
Take my money.
Right? I think that is one very important case, which we see in specific categories being super present. In other categories, it's more of a, consumer electronics, I think, is a good example.
Yes.
There might be a few select cases, your charger's broken, you need a second controller to play FIFA at home with the person you just have over, where speed really matters. But there is also lots of cases, and this again applies across categories, where speed is not necessarily the top priority. It might be more about convenience factors, like can you actually plan ahead your day? So you want something delivered tomorrow in the evening when you're home from work, and it doesn't matter whether it's super fast. You just don't want to be home the entire day waiting for a package.
Yeah, totally.
So what we believe is that providing all the options to the customers is the most important thing, to have the customer decide, if I need it fast, I can get it fast. If I need it in a specific time window, I can get it in a time window. And also if I need it in 2 to 3 days and I don't care about it, then I might choose a cheaper option, and that's perfectly fine. It's about giving options.
I find it fascinating that as we speak, there are so many things that are happening in the e-commerce and retail space at the same time. So we have, I presented this during the opening keynote of the expo. You have companies like Temu, for example, that have a complete different approach, like very price sensitive, whereby you are okay with waiting 5+ days for delivery and save lots of money. And as far as I understand, like this applies to maybe half the society that would be willing to, depending on the product, willing to save money on their purchases, but then wait longer. But then there are others that just really need the next day delivery and don't want to wait so long. And for you guys, could you tell us maybe like what are the top 5 products or product categories that perform best with your service?
Of course. So I think maybe what you just mentioned before, right, on the decisive factor of where to shop versus price, convenience, or speed of delivery. I think also service is an important aspect. Depending on what you buy, you might want to have the option to go to a store and get it serviced if you want to. I think things like can you return it, like how flexible are the conditions, and that is also super important. The strongest, I think, continues to be price. So that is still the number one decision making factor of what you want to buy. But it's very closely followed by convenience and speed factors. And as you say, this varies across categories. There's some categories, and it usually correlates to how often you purchase something, that speed and the delivery aspect become more important. Versus if you buy something once a year, then it's probably not as important to get it in 90 minutes, right?
For sure.
So if
we've seen that during Black Friday,
exactly,
especially in electronics, people like I've read reports from PinOps Research. Thanks, Hannes, for the insights. That you have customers waiting 8 to 12 months for electronics, fridges, like furniture, whatever, and it's like the consumers are getting very price sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, or furniture, I think, is a great example, right? So you buy probably once the nice bed you have for your apartment, and then it's for many years. And then you want something that's exactly like what you need, and it takes 2-3 months. Okay. But if you buy, for example, groceries, or food is the ideal example, right? We start there. If you buy restaurant food, maybe once to twice a week in the evenings. If you buy groceries, once to maybe multiple times a week. If you buy drugstore items or pharma items, those are all items of the daily use, right? And there it's usually important that you don't wait 3-4 days for it, but you need it fast. And the categories right now that where we see that this is the best product market fit of having a fast delivery are exactly linked to all these categories, right? Food, of course, where we're already active super strongly, groceries, drugstore, pharma, and then maybe also some things like flowers and gifts, like the things that are a bit more occasional, but it's still something where usually you want it delivered.
For sure. Flowers, you're just speaking directly to my soul, because there are so many times there's an important birthday or we have to visit someone and I completely forgot to get something, and flowers are a good solution.
Exactly.
Which is a last minute solution.
Yeah,
I guess
it's a last minute gifting solution. I think that's
and also I find pharmacies super interesting. We had Doc Morris here as a guest, and we're talking to, of course, like Shop Apotheke and Red Care Pharmacy. And even like, would you say they would be potential partners for you guys, or maybe is it more because I know for a fact that you're also offering this technology to any website pretty much, right? So would they be like potential partners?
For sure.
Yeah.
So exactly, these platforms in the pharma industry are a great fit to use both our marketplace to access more consumers, as well as Uber Direct to then on their own website offer fast delivery.
Yeah.
And that definitely can also be a differentiating factor, a competitive advantage, because there are a lot of options to get medicine right now. Both, you can walk to the closest pharmacy or you can get it online. But it's a great category because usually when you need medicine fast, you don't want to go out and walk. You're probably usually not feeling that well.
Exactly.
And then it's that type of use case where probably you're willing to pay to get it fast and just stay at home, stay in bed, and get your pharmacies delivered.
I mean, it's not even that much money, right? So as far as I understand, as far as I've tested it with my wife, it's like €5 that you have to pay on top, and 2.5 euros for same or next day delivery, if I'm not mistaken.
So at MediaMarkt right now, it's $5.99 for the 90 minutes delivery. Yeah. And then if you were to have a same day delivery, it's usually a bit cheaper than that, exactly, because it becomes more efficient, right? Also from an operational perspective, so it's better economics.
I guess, Moritz, as you said, it really depends on your preference or needs, and then to be able to give the customer 2-3 options to choose from, depending on what exactly they want, right? That's so we talked a lot about MediaMarkt. We had this cool demo, but what else? I think you also have a cooperation with Douglas, if I'm not mistaken, or not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So MediaMarkt in Germany right now is the biggest retailer that we work with, and they have scaled this nationwide, expanded with us to Poland. We are on the roadmap are multiple other retailers that we will launch within the coming months. The I think best use case we see right now in many of our other European markets is definitely in grocery, where if you look at the German market, it's not that common yet to order your groceries online. I think Germany is a market where you tend to go offline to the closest grocer and get your groceries there. You have, I think specifically here in Berlin, Flink, you have the delivery service from Rewe as well. In some other areas you have Picnic or Knusper, but not yet at that scale and at the penetration as we see in other European markets. So if I look a bit to like our future in the coming months and years, I think consumer electronics is one category where I think, given that it's a very commoditized product as well, there is a strong need to differentiate yourself outside of just price. That works greatly if you can use service quality, being close to your consumers, and delivery speed for it. If I look to like where is the biggest need from a consumer today, I definitely think it's in the grocery space, and that's also where we expect in the coming months and years.
According to ECDB data, this space is supposed to grow alone in 2025 15%. Grocery has only 3% online penetration up
Yeah, it's
until
very
now,
low.
and it's supposed to grow 15%, and it's supposed to also grow for the next couple of years quite
Yeah.
prominently. So that's super exciting. So can you maybe describe, like, let's say, what kind of grocery players would be potential customers for you guys?
Yep.
Partners.
So I think any of the big grocery
Yeah.
companies that exist in Germany today, right? We think similarly to MediaMarkt are looking to offer at scale. So
Yes.
I think more than potentially a small grocery which
Yeah.
exists in just one city. We expect to operate rather at a national scale.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't speak to specific names, but any of the big grocery chains in Germany.
I think we all got the message.
and any of the big grocery chains in Germany.
Yeah, we talked about retail readiness and how the market kind of evolved. How do you see traditional retailers? I think if you're not tapping into this, because obviously this market will grow, we know that. So the traditional retailers, if they are not tapping into this, what kind of danger are they faced with?
Yeah, I think we speak a lot with what you would call traditional, so brick and mortar retailers, and they all face a lot of pressure from online pure players. I think if we look a bit at the past years, there has been ever increasing cost at continuously high price pressure.
Yeah.
So that really drains your margins. There is an increase in the expectations from online shoppers as to wanting, the best selection at the lowest price, at the fastest delivery, and getting the best service for it. So it's really tough to compete in this online space. We think though that the brick and mortar retailers have one huge advantage which they need to play to, which is being close to consumers. Being close to consumers in the sense of having stores in the inner cities where, one, you can play to great service, right? So you can just walk in. You can play to using the products that you have on the shelves already to ship them on very short routes to your consumers. You can, I think, in a branding perspective, right, having a physical reference to seeing a brand is always super strong. So you can do a lot with that as well.
Yeah.
And then I think something which online you can't do is everything has to do with experiences. So it's experiencing a product, testing something out. So I think the traditional retail to play to their strength, all of these I just mentioned. And then us as Uber, how we see to support the retail in this is what we call local commerce. So it's not e-commerce, it's local commerce, because we want to make sure that a retailer in its city, in its local surroundings, has a very competitive online presence and is able, for example, in our marketplace, to access a multi-million user base here in Germany, and also on their own channel being super competitive in offering very fast, convenient delivery, something which you can not match being an e-commerce pure player. So playing to their strength as to being close to the consumers, and then I think the buzzword is the omnichannel approach. So fusing what you have offline with the online world, and then we see that customers respond really well to that. So an increased awareness of the brand, very high satisfaction, which leads to better repurchasing rates. So that can be one angle that can help the traditional brick and mortar retailer be more competitive with e-commerce.
I almost used this service from MediaMarkt a couple of days ago. One of my AirPods fell down the window, and we live on the third floor, and my sons and I went downstairs, and just to see, it went through this grid, and we had to really use a magnet to pull this up, probably I would have had to order a new one because I'm always like listening to audiobooks and everything. So like I guess this is also one of the popular product categories.
Yeah.
But then what happens when you order some product and then you want to return it?
Yeah.
So how do returns work with you guys?
Yeah, so there's two main options. I think one, if you order something from a local retailer, you can just walk in the store and return it. That's, I think, part of the advantage of being close to consumers.
Yes.
Us as a
Which,
delivery,
by the way, was not even technically possible a couple of years ago. Like, if you bought something online,
Yeah.
you would have had to return it online. It's
Yeah.
actually crazy.
I think that's part of the omnichannel challenges
Yes.
that many retailers have faced. It's connecting the online and offline world in the sense of returns, but another big issue is, for example, stock. So it's also knowing on your online channel what you have in stock in the stores.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's very tough to fulfill your online orders from the stores.
Yeah.
So yeah, bringing the item back to the store is, I think, probably a very straightforward option. We as delivery service also offer return logistics. So you can also order customer to business delivery, where one of our couriers would come to your home, pick up the item and deliver it to the business.
Mm-hmm.
This is something which usually you don't have, from a customer perspective, a big urgency. But from a merchant perspective, depending on the industry that you're in, it can be very valuable to have an item back in stock and back on shelves quicker than having a return stay for a long time at the consumer until they finally decide to bring the package to the local pickup point or back to the store.
How about peer-to-peer marketplaces like Kleinanzeigen, for example? Would that be an option where you could also be?
For sure. Yes.
Because we had Kleinanzeigen also in the podcast, and it's incredible how they did a rebranding, moved from eBay Kleinanzeigen, and like re-commerce is quite popular, especially when customers around. I think from a study I read from eBay, over 60% of customers in Germany have bought secondhand products last year, and also like 68% of these people do it because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Also, that's
I buy a lot on peer-to-peer marketplaces as well, and I think it's a typical, once you have decided you want to buy something, is when and where can we meet? How can I pick this up? So I think that's sometimes it's no issue at all, but sometimes it can be a pain point in this buying journey. Having, a delivery option, a peer-to-peer delivery option is something that is definitely possible there.
Yeah.
Pick up, from the person selling and then immediate delivery to the person buying within the same city. So that's a great fit because these marketplaces usually function on a city scope as well. So yeah, definitely that's a use case we could also
honestly
serve.
Moritz, listening to you, I'm thinking, why the heck aren't all these web shops using this already? And because it's in my opinion a very attractive service. Let's say I have an online shop.
Yep.
Let's take Miss Pompadour as an example, right? I won't tell you how much revenue they're generating, but they're a rising star. They have a vibrant community. So you're painting your home. You've seen all these examples. I'll send my greetings to Eric, who's a co-founder. But let's say you're painting your home and you realize, hey, I don't like this color, and you want to order some. You have you're already in the focus, mode.
Yeah.
So you could order some more colors or whatever. Do you imagine just pretty much many online shops tapping into this model? They don't need to be that big like MediaMarkt, Saturn or something, but like also smaller ones, like generating less than 100 million yearly revenue and like have a community across Germany or something. Would that be applicable to those types of shops as well?
For sure. So we want to make this tech and this logistics available to anyone who wants to use it, right? And it's, when I mentioned that it's very scalable, that goes in both directions. So you can operate, in 130 cities with 250 stores with that and do 10,000s of deliveries. But you can also do a handful of deliveries and you pay as you go. So it's because this is a service which is very, very efficient. We don't need you to have, a minimum amount of deliveries that you need to do with us.
Yeah.
And I think to your specific example, DIY is a great category as well for this. It's, think the typical thing, you're working at home, you're doing something, you missed one thing to finish the project, and then you take a car ride to the outskirts to the next market, get
You're
something.
describing my life.
In a huge market, you walk around to find one thing and then driving back again, when the alternative would be you can just stay at home, continue working on something else, and get the item delivered very fast. So absolutely, that's one use case.
In the
that
last
fits very
12
well.
months, we've been observing companies like OB, Bauhaus, and all these guys, like everyone is moving into a marketplace approach, like kind of allowing third-party sellers to sell through their platform, leverage e-commerce. Like this is again, I'm the target group. You think you got everything for a do-it-yourself project. By the way, do-it-yourself has an online penetration of 10% only. That means like 90% market available for, like, which is offline right now. So lots of opportunity there.
Sure.
And this is exactly what happened to us just last week. We had a project, like we bought everything that we thought we needed, and you go home and you got the wrong size, wrong size like nubs or something. It's just very frustrating. And honestly, I would be so ready to just pay 10 euros because you have the time that you allocated for this project on a Saturday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Please, let's get this done.
Yeah.
Because the mental load it creates for you is
sure.
a different story.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see this play out, and I hope it can really be fast. As long as my kids are small, I can benefit from it. Yeah. So let's end with some words on where you see Uber Direct in the next 5 years. Can you create a picture of us? Do we see you guys almost like 2 out of 5 shops, or like what's your future vision?
Great question. I think if I think like 5 years in the future, what I would see Uber Direct's role in inner city logistics is that we want to be the fastest, the most efficient, the greenest, the cheapest way to move things from A to B.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, very broad, right? I think there's a few categories where we will see this happen faster. Again, groceries is a great example. DIY is a perfect, need from consumers to get things fast.
Yeah.
There's a few other categories where it might take some more time. But if I look 5 years maybe in the future, I would expect that if you observe city logistics and things getting moved from A to B, that a good share of those should be fulfilled by Uber Direct.
Yeah.
It doesn't all need to be in this model where it's really a point-to-point delivery and super fast. We are also expanding into same-day use cases where we have one courier delivering a lot of shipments at the same time. All depending on what the merchant sees as a priority, what the customer wants, trying to meet the customer where they are.
I'm walking out of this talk with like lots of inspiration thanks to you. Truly enjoyed having you in the show, Moritz, and thank you so much for enlightening us with your insights and knowledge. So I really hope to see you again soon. For a follow-up, maybe in 1 or 2 years, to see where you guys are going to be. And until then, wish you all the best pushing this innovative product.
Thank you, Efe. It's been a pleasure to be here and hope to be back soon.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the EGN Podcast. If you found our discussion insightful, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Your support helps us grow and improve our content. See you next time.